Hello all and welcome to another edition of Forcing Will with Kill Owen. Today I'm going to cover the mud deck for you guys, so let's jump right in with our lands. We have 4 Ancient Tombs. This is probably the best land in the deck in my opinion, just because it gives us such great mana acceleration and it stays on the board. We do take 2 damage every time we use it, so be mindful of the amount of life you're using. It's also super nice with Chalice of the Void on turn 1, so we can play it, Chalice of the Void for 1 on turn 1 and lock down so many cards in Legacy. I mean, you think about like Brainstorm, huge staple in Legacy, shut down on turn 1. Certain decks, even like Red deck wins. That's pretty much a good game if you can get that on turn 1. We have for the new Cavern of Souls. This card is crazy in the mud deck. It allows us to play spells like our Meta Worker against control decks and not have to worry about them getting countered. The other one that I like to do if I have multiple Cavern of Souls on the board, I like to name Golem just because we have a bunch of different Golems in our deck. So that's usually the 2 I name for that. We'll name Construct for our Metalworker first because it also does the Forge Master. So besides that, you could do stuff like Worm, Dragon, Angel. But Golem would probably be the second one I'd choose overall. We have 4 City of Traders. I'm not completely sold on 4. I think 3 might actually be a better choice. It's super great. We get 2 mana. It's great mana acceleration, and we don't take any damage. However, if you don't have any other lands in your hand, it kind of kills you. So you have to be careful of that, because if you ever play another land, well, this is on the battlefield, this will get destroyed. So make sure you activate its ability if you're going to be playing a land at that turn. We have 4 Darksteel Citadels. This is just going to help with our Metalworker. Also helps with our Mox Opal getting the Metalcraft ability, and it's indestructible, so we don't have to worry about Wasteland. So that's why we run 4 of those. And we have 4 Wastelands, just going to help us lock down our opponents early on in the game. Also just gives us more mana. So shouldn't need any introduction to Wasteland. It's freaking awesome in the format. Over here we have our mana accelerators. We run 4 Grim Monoliths. This is just going to help us excel into our cards that we need to get on early on, or some of our larger casting spells if we decide we need to hard cast them. Turn 1 Ancient Tomb into a Grim Monolith and into a Metalworker is pretty dang good. So that's ready to run 4 of them, and they can be untapped later on in the game when we have more mana, which this deck usually does. It usually has quite a bit of mana. We run 1 Mox Opal, just going to help accelerate the deck even more. Only run 1, so we're not going to be seeing it too often, but it's nice to get it every once in a while, especially if we get the Metalcraft ability. I kind of shy away from playing more than 2 or 3 Mox Opals in any deck just because of the legendary ability, but still a very good mana acceleration card. Over here we have kind of our lockdown cards. We have 3 Trinispheres. These are just going to delay other decks, and it can actually shut down quite a number of decks. Dredge can't really play against Trinisphere. A number of decks have 1-2 mana cost spells, so this really just slows them down. And especially if you can get this down on turn 1, you can basically just buy your time, and it shuts down important cards like Force of Will. So if your opponent's tapped out, you don't have to worry about them having cards such as Force of Will or Daze just because they won't be able to play it. We have 4 Chalice of the Voids. This card is crazy good in Legacy. It shuts down so many decks. You can play it for 1, 0, even 2. Those are usually the numbers you'll pick in Legacy. It just depends on the deck, but this will just help shut down those decks and just help you get your combo pieces out or just lay down some fatties on the board. Alright, here is what makes Mud so crazy good. We have 4 Metalworkers. This is just going to allow us to just add tons of mana to our mana pool and just lay down our hand. It's also part of a combo. Lightning Greaves is great with Metalworker, by the way. Just if you have this out, they basically can't destroy your Metalworker, and he can use his ability the turn you play him. But anyway, you use Metalworker to reveal a bunch of cards in your hand, and if you have Staff of Domination out on the board, you can keep untapping your Metalworker and gain infinite mana that way. And basically, you can just keep using stuff like Staff of Domination to draw into your library and just play all your spells. It's crazy good. But we only have 1 Staff of Domination. That's not the key combo in this deck, but I've I've actually been able to play it the combo a few times, and it's really fun. But usually my opponents will concede before then. So crazy good card. Definitely the staple in the mud deck. We also have 4 Forge Masters. This is also going to help us to allow us to put together our combo pieces or search up any number of artifact creatures. My favorite one to do is if we have Lightning Greaves, I will usually get Plaistow Colossus, and I'll just win the game right there. It also just helps us tour up. Say we only have 1 life and we don't have any really good answers for our opponent, we can get Platinum Angel or Platinum Empyrean. So just a great utility card. Lets you just get out of sticky situations and figure out what you need to do. Here we have 3 Lightning Greaves. This is just super good in this deck. It allows all of our creatures to have haste and shroud. It's really nice. Say you have Metalworker, you lay it out, add a bunch of mana to your hand, and you have a Wormcoil in your hand. You lay down your Wormcoil, and then you just transfer the Greaves onto your Wormcoil, attack with your Wormcoil, and then move this back onto your Metalworker. So, I mean, you basically played Metalworker, unloaded a big fatty out of your hand, attacked with the fatty, gained a bunch of life, and your Metalworker's back to being safe. It's just crazy good in this deck, and that's why you run 3. 4 is a bit overkill, so I won't worry about it. I kind of went over Staff of Domination already, so I'm not going to go over it again. I mean, it gives you a bunch of different things you can do. It's a great utility card, and it lets us combo off into an infinite mana combo if we have the cards in hand to do it. Here are our protection creatures. These are just in case we're kind of in a sticky situation and we don't quite have enough pieces to win. We can get our Platinum Angel. It just prevents us from losing and our opponents from winning. Or Platinum Empyrean. This is just going to keep us from losing life. So it depends on the deck that your opponent is playing which one you want to get. But I run 2 of these just in case we have one in hand and we have a Forge Master. So that way we're not completely, dead. Moving right along, let's jump into our creatures. We run 4 Lodestone Golems. This guy is insane. I mean, 4 mana for a 5/3 is pretty dang good because you're going to get more damage. But non-artifact spells cost 1 more to cast, which locks down quite a number of decks. I mean, if we're playing against like Affinity or something, it doesn't really do much, but most decks, this just kills them. If we can get this out turn 1 or 2, usually you can deal quite a bit of damage before your opponent's able to take care of it. However, be wary against decks that are running red because they can Lightning Bolt your Lodestone Golem, so just be wary of that. We have Phyrexian Metamorph. This guy is just crazy good just because he can copy any artifact or creature on the battlefield. So it can become an artifact, say another Spine of Ishta, Chalice of Void, Trinisphere, you name it, or any other creature on the battlefield. And it's super cheap too. For 3 mana, we can pay the 2, the 2 life, and copy one of our opponent's creatures if they have something really crazy on the board. Also, if they have an annoying legendary creature, we can copy it and destroy it that way. So this card just has so many uses. It's just really crazy good. So we only have 1 of them though. We run 1 Plaistow Colossus. This guy is usually going to be casted from our Forge Master. Every once in a while we'll get him out with Metalworker, but that doesn't happen too often. Basically, he's just there to lay down the law and just kill our opponent with the Infect ability. Plus, he's indestructible with Trample. So he's pretty baller. We have 1 Thundering Titan. This is really good against especially the control decks that run a bunch of different dual lands. Playing this sometimes can just totally clear their whole mana base. So we have 1 of him. And then we have 3 Wormcoil Engines. This guy is just crazy good. 6 mana for 6/6 Death Touch, Lifelink. That makes 2 3/3 creatures when it dies. 1 with Lifelink and Death Touch is just crazy good. And it's super easy to get out with this deck. I mean, I've gotten Wormcoil out plenty of times on turn like 3 or 4 and attack that same turn because we have Lightning Greaves. So it just helps us, stay in the game, gain a bunch of life, and just overwhelm our opponent. So that's why we have 3 of those. We have 1 Still Hellkite. This dragon is crazy good. Not only is it a 5/5 flyer, it has an ability that allows you to pump it up. And its main ability is once you've dealt damage to an opponent, you can pay X and destroy each permanent with that converted mana cost. So this can very easily just wipe out opponent's boards if it is left unanswered. And then we have one Mirror Battle Sphere. This is just going to allow us to have a huge force on the board, get a bunch of tokens out, and it deals extra damage whenever we attack. So this is just kind of our little like beat down creature, and it gives us a bunch of guys on the battlefield, which isn't a bad thing. So that's where we have one of these, just crazy good. Mostly going to be playing this from our hand. And here are some of our utility cards. We have one Spine of Ishta. What's really good about this is when it comes in, it destroys a permanent. But when it goes into the graveyard, you can return it to your hand. This combos extremely well with Forge Master because we sacrifice it, and then the spine gets sent back to our hand, and then we can replay it. So I mean, that doesn't happen too much. I mean, I've seen mud decks where they really have this like as one of their core combos, but I don't like it enough to run 3 or 4 spines. I think one is plenty good for this deck. And we also have one Karn Liberate. This guy is just crazy. He just lets us get rid of our opponent's permanents. Also, we won't be doing target player exile the cards from his or her hand too often. I mean, it's nice sometimes. I'll do that if our opponent, you know, I need more counters on our Karn so we can get rid of permanents, or if they don't really have a whole lot of cards in hand, I'll start doing that. I almost never ever use his ultimate ability. It's just too hard to get that many counters on Karn, and I don't really ever exile cards from my hand for the ultimate ability. So I basically just use this for his exile target permanent, and sometimes to get rid of cards in our opponent's hand. So that's the main deck. Let's go and take a look at their sideboard here. First off, we run 3 Phyrexian Revoker. This is basically just like a piping needle on legs, with some differences. You can't name cards like Wasteland because you can't name non-land cards, but you can choose mana ability cards like Lion's Eye Diamond or Lotus Petal. So be aware of that. We'll usually bring this in just for our opponent has a deck that relies on a lot of activated abilities. We'll throw in 3 of these. One Trinisphere. We'll do this mostly against control decks or combo decks, just to give us more of a chance to draw it in our opening hand. Overhears are more cards that we'll use against more aggro decks. Red deck wins with a lot of early aggression, Zoo decks, White Weenie, Haterade, you name it. So first off, we have one Silent Arbiter. This is just going to allow us to attack with 1 creature, and our opponent can only attack with 1 creature, so it's pretty sweet that way. And only 1 creature can block. I mean, seriously, if we get out any of our creatures, they're going to be able to hold their own. So that's why we have him. He's really super good. We have 3 Ensnaring Bridges. I don't use this one quite as often, but it's really good just because they can't use like Swords of the Plowshare as they can with their Arbiter. And this just prevents them from going off. However, you have to be careful. If you have Ensnaring Bridges on the battlefield, you will not be attacking with your creatures just because our creatures are so big, unless you can get rid of your bridges with Forge Master. Usually when you have bridge out, you'll be going for more of the combo kill with our Metalworker, but beware that you can use Forge Master to get rid of your bridge if needs be. We have 1 Witchbane Orb. Gets rid of all of our curses, but most importantly, it gives us hexproof. We're just going to bring this in against red deck wins, Ad Nauseam Tendrils, just any deck that's going to be targeting us as a player. Even High Tide, this is good against. So that's why we have 1 lone copy in our sideboard. We have 1 Crucible of Worlds. We're going to use this against decks with heavy land destruction or wasteland. Or if we're facing a deck where we need to play more wastelands to lock down our opponent, we'll sideboard in our Crucible of Worlds. We have 1 duplicate. What's nice about this, you lay it down, name one of your imprint one of your opponent's creatures and just get rid of it. It's just super awesome. It's a great utility card and just helps take control of your opponent's board. Over here we have our Graveyard Hate Pile. We have 2 Tormod's Crypts. Obviously just going to use this against any graveyard deck, Dredge, Aggro Loam, and then we have 1 Ravenous Trap, just in case they have, say, a Pithing Needle Tormod's Crypt and we can't activate a Tormod's Crypt. We can still cast Ravenous Trap for its trap cost, as long as they put, you know, 3 or more cards into their graveyard that turn. And then we have 1 Kozilek Butcher of Truth. It has crazy good abilities, but this is mostly going to be for the High Tide deck. So if they're playing High Tide, you put this in your main deck. they try to brain freeze you, and then you just keep shuffling it back into your you shuffle your graveyard back into your library, and it just keeps you from dying. So that's basically the mud shell in a excuse me, the mud deck in a nutshell. I'm gonna go play some games, and hopefully I can get some wins for you guys. Thanks for watching.